Anyone remember a time when dual battery kits was the in thing? When it was like almost one every week was being released with a pretty good stock coil sub-ohm tank, dual 18650, 200 watts. It used to be the bread and butter of many companies out there. Now we look at the market segments today and all we're seeing is fucking pod kits or AIOs or pod mods or variances thereof. Not with this though. SMOK is going back to their roots. This is a member of the Scar family. And the Scar family of mods, well, they weren't mods until this, but the Scar family of AIOs were basically starter kits in the SMOK lineup. This is the Scar 18 though. Looks a little bit Aegis legendary. More about that when we head back up from the table cam, but what we're looking at here is your classic dual 18650 kit with another TFV9, I think this is called. I've lost track of the TFV tanks now, but what we're looking at is dual battery SMOK mod with a TFV SMOK tank, back to the roots of what made SMOK the company they are. Now, there hasn't been a lot of dual battery mods being released onto the market, especially since this whole COVID-19 hit. A lot of these companies are mainly relying on their AIOs and pods to keep things ticking over. These are becoming rare. Let's face it, there's only a handful of companies now that are regularly producing dual battery stock coil tank kits. So this doesn't have a lot of competition currently out on the market. But here's the thing. It looks like a Geek Vape Aegis legend. Dual battery Aegis legend. Which one? This is going to be the question everyone's asking. Which one's the better mod? Only one way to find out. But before we do find out, let's have an up close and personal of this kit review. Tank at the top. It is a kit because all SMOK mods always come in a kit. This tank is the TFV9. There we go, TFV9. They seem to be going backwards in the numbers instead of forwards. So for the people that haven't seen the TFV9, it's another stock coil sub-ohm tank. At the very top, if this ever comes off, you've got an 810 double O-ring on the actual mouthpiece as well. So filling up the tank, look for the little arrow, pull it up, give it a twist, and it will swing open like that. There's your fill port in there. Nothing fancy going on with that either. There's a few other tanks from SMOK that does that. You've got the main barrel of the tank in there with your SMOK coil. Then you've got your airflow down here at the base, fully adjustable, and there's two air hole inserts as you can see. Let's take a look at the TFV9 coils. We'll crack this open. Now they haven't sent, the SMOK usually send a packet of each of the coil types for their tanks, but this time they didn't. They only sent a pack of these over, and this is the single core coil. Let's pull this out. Very short dumpy coil, these ones. Very short dumpy coil, but there's your single core coil. Let's pull that zoom down. Very fine mesh that's in there. Very fine mesh as you can see. And this one is the V9 mesh. There's another coil that came in the box, and the other coil is basically the same type. There we go, 0.15, it's another single core mesh. Now, I don't know a lot about the V9, because the V9's a relatively newer release coil of the SMOK line. I think there is a couple of variants for the SMOK coils for the TFV9, but I think the majority of the coils that you're going to be seeing shops carrying for the V9 tank is going to be this particular coil here, the single core wide bore, which to be honest gives you the better flavour. It does give you the better flavour. So that was an up close of the tank. Let's move on to the mod itself, and this zoom is way too far in. Hold on, there we go. Starting at the top of the mod, Vic! Is the 510 pin spring mounted Vic? Yes it is. Mirror finish on the top plate, which means this is going to become a mess. On this side you've got fingerprints because it's another mirror finish on the actual cage that surrounds this squishy squishy fake leather thing going on here, so there's a bit of a squishy padding going on, as you can see. But on this side, you have got the cage with the grippy pad thing. You have got down here your USB charge. If we pop this open, you can see that it's all sealed up with the rubber stopper. Micro USB and not USB-C. At the front, your main control panel, fire button, main screen, up, down. On this side, you've got Scar 18 with more grippy paddy stuff. And at the back, you've got the main grippy pad. Down here at the base, you've got your CE mark, designed by SMOK, don't vape in a bin, with a bit of venting. Let's pop a couple of batteries in here and see what's going on here, shall we? We're going to pop a couple of Aegysys in. That goes in there. That one's negative up. Pop you over. And here we go with this bloody battery door. Hold on. Eventually, that latch goes over. The battery doors on these are a little bit stiff, so you've got to make sure that battery door latch is all the way up. Let's switch this on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there we go. Slight different layout on this screen compared to other mods that are using, well, other mods from the SMOK line, that is, that's using the same board and chip, so slightly different layout. Main readout here, you have got your wattage at the top, coil ohms, the volts being used, your RMP and your puff counter, and double battery indicators. 1, 2, 3 brings you into the main menu. Power mode, I'm trying to get this without the shine, right there. Temp control, nickel, there's your main readout. It's changed. This part at the bottom here's remained mostly the same, but you've got your Fahrenheit up here. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Then you've got temp control titanium, temp control stainless steel 316, and back to power mode. Very simple menu in this, folks. It's all first stage upper menus on this. There was a couple of other SMOK mods that came out at the very, very back half of 2019 that had this similar board and chip. Now, for all intents and purposes, the Scar 18, which is part of the Scar family of new mods, are basically the replacement for the older series of mods that came out at the back half of 2017 and 2018. So the Scar range is going to be a brand new range of mods from the folks over at SMOK. They're trying to ditch the older series, the much older series, like the Alien, for instance, that everyone's a lot of people still using the Alien. They're trying to move past the Alien series of boards, and let's face it, the Alien boards lasted for a long time. Then you had the change with the SMOK Majesty kit that came out in 2017, and that was the first major release from SMOK, which completely ditched the Alien board. This is another newer series of boards from SMOK, but I'll be honest, they could have come up with a better design, because they've basically copied the Geek Vape legend. That's basically what they've done. The outside appearance here is a little bit different, but if I put my hand there and we're looking on the outside, it looks like a legend. It does actually look like a legend. There is water resistance in this mod, obviously, because the thing's covered in rubber, and you've also got the rubber stopper here on your USB, so it's obvious what this mod is competing against. It is very obvious what this mod is competing against. Anyway, let's pop the tank back on this again. That was the up close and personal of the SMOK Scar 18. Let's head back up to me again. And we're back up top with the SMOK Scar 18. Temp control test time, drop solo with a single nickel 200 coil, and that nickel 200 coil is running at 0.11 ohms, 420 Fahrenheit, and we're off. That was a quick climb. Interesting. Very little vapour, very little flavour. The temp control kicks in a lot more quicker on the Scar 18 than it does on other dual battery mods that SMOK have released in the past. Let's have a look at the cotton here, and as to be expected, a little bit of darkening right in the middle of the cotton, but that's where the middle of the coil is, and that's where most of the heat is generated. They have altered their temp control algorithms, just comparing this to other dual battery mods that SMOK have released over the past year, which to be honest hasn't been much, because it's been all the fucking AIOs and pods and crap, but there has been a couple of dual battery mods that SMOK have released. They have done a bit more work on their temp control. The way that SMOK used to work with their temp control is, it used to be a very slow ramp down. You know, you could still get a good vape for maybe 7, 8 or 9 pulls and then it would start to cut out. With this, it's a very quick ramp down. It's not instant shut off like other mods do, but they have tightened up the ramp down on their temp control for this particular board and chip variant in the Scar. One more test left to do. If I get coffee in front of me, yes I do. Coffee today because I'm actually recording this in the morning. Almost afternoon because I slept in, but it's technically in the morning. So, 1, 2, 3, let's head into power mode. And I've just fucked that up because I've ended up setting the ohms. Reset. Going back on. Yes, it's a new coil. And let's crank this all the way up to its maximum of 230 watts. Not with dual 18650s, you're not. But we are looking to see if it will hit 200. Oh. Okay, 230 watts on the SMOK Scar 18, and we're off. Nope. Now, oh, now, here's the question. Is it getting the 230? I very highly doubt it, because we're dealing with a dual 18650 mod here. If it was dual 21700 or even dual 2700, then I could maybe kind of give it to them for 230 watts, but 230 with two 18650s, with the limited capacity of 18650s, you're looking at a 200 watt mod. Put it that way, you're looking at a 200 watt mod, folks. I don't think it's hitting the 230. I need to get some kind of testing equipment in here. I mean, I've went to the expense of getting a bigger office for a bigger studio. It's about time I started investing in something to actually test the wattage in these things, so I'm not basically guessing all the time. So, this little tank, which is the TFV9 or something now, I've lost track of the SMOK tanks. Let's pop the tank on and have a quick vape on it as a kit, not at 230 watts. Almost burnt out the coil there. I'm going to crank this down to a much more manageable 75. Airflow control is half closed because having your airflow control fully open in a SMOK tank basically means you get lots of clouds, but fuck all flavour. So airflow control's half closed, 75 watts, and we're off again. Not bad for a SMOK tank, not bad at all. And there we go, folks. That was the SMOK Scar 18. What do I think of this? The eyes and the nose. Now, let's get the elephant out of the room first. It looks like a Geek Vape Aegis. There's no getting around it. The whole front part, the rubberized bit down there, the rubberized bit down there, more rubberized bits down there. If you had the SMOK, if you had the Legend, the Aries, not the Aries, if you had the Aegis Legend from Geek Vape and this sitting side by side, side on, about 7 or 8 feet away, and somebody with dodgy eyesight like me was looking at them, they would instantly think it was two Aegis Legends sitting side by side. It's not until you go up close that you realise the panelling on this is completely different to the way the Aegis Legend was designed. But what this essentially is this is SMOK's attempt, basically, to cut into the Aegis Legend dual battery sales, because apparently Geek Vape's Aegis Legend dual battery mod has been doing rather well in sales, because it's a very rugged mod, it's got a damn good chip, and it's very comfortable to hold, hence the reason that SMOK essentially copied it. It's essentially what they've done. They might have got a different panel in the back here to kind of set it apart a little bit from the Geek Vape Aegis Legend, but you're basically looking at SMOK's Aegis Legend. That's what you're looking at. The big question here is, what's it like comparing both of them side by side? Now, Geek Vape's boards and chips have improved exponentially since the early days of the original single 26650 Aegis Legend that came out about Wow, was it that long ago now? 3 years ago? I think the original Legend, the original Aegis, sorry, the single 26650 one. Sure, that was 3 years ago now, but that board, chip and screen has been part and parcel of the entire Aegis range, with the exception of one or two, but it's been part and parcel of the entire Aegis range for the good part of the run of the Aegis series. And the Aegis Legend Dual 18650 is the ultimate culmination of the upgrades to the firmware and the hardware that Geek Vape's been doing to their boards and chips since the old Aegis came out. How does this stack up against it? Because it's fucking obvious that this is going up against the Legend Dual. I'll be honest, SMOK's boards and chips, they're as good as, to be honest, they're as good as the boards and chips that you find from Geek Vape. When it comes down to what one to actually buy, the Geek Vape Legend Dual or the SMOK Scar 18, it's going to come down to one thing and one thing only: the looks of the mod. Which one do you personally like better? The looks of the Legend, which is more classical looking, or the looks of the Scar that's got this big cage thing round the back of it, but essentially looks very similar to the Legend. Both mods running side by side with a stock coil tank. With a stock coil tank, you're not really going to notice a difference. Both mods running side by side, running on temp control with nickel 200 and stainless steel 316, you're not going to notice a difference. It's all down to looks. That's essentially what it comes down to. I've got zero complaints with this kit, folks. Absolutely zero complaints. I mean, okay, the one complaint I've got is, really, SMOK? Really? You had to copy the Legend to come up with a new design? I mean, here's the thing. SMOK's a massive company. They're not as big as Vaporesso, but they're a fucking huge company. They're one of the top 3 in Shenzhen. You'd think they could hire new designers to come up with new ideas for their mods instead of copying someone else's design. I mean, come on, SMOK, really? Anyway, let's get the Kazoku Unlimit. Seriously, now it's stuck. There we go. Let's get the Kazoku Unlimit off of the Vaporesso Gen X. I have a couple of more vapes on this and we'll call it quits. Good tank this, go out and buy one. Pop that on there. I want that. I want that half open. I want that fully open. 75 watts again, and we're off. You might notice I've changed the way that I'm vaping in here. There's a story behind that. These rooms are not as sealed as the small office at the far end of the corridor, because it used to be the case that I could shut the door in the old office, open up the window, have the fan basically sucking all the vapour out, and what I was relying on is the air being pulled from the ceiling. The problem is in here, there's 2 doors. There's 2 doors, so there's lots and lots. I mean, I've got a huge fan over there now that's pulling all the vapour out, and I've got another standing fan over there pushing the vapour towards this end, and I've got another standing fan in the corner going at an angle, just trying to shove all the vapour to the corner of the room. The problem is some of the vapour, just a little tiny bit of it, was leaking out, probably through the doors. I fixed that by putting weather sealing round the sides of the doors and one of those weather sealed bottom things that drag on your carpet, so hopefully that fixes things out. But what I'm doing now is I'm purposefully blowing the vapour towards the open window over there, you know, just to keep the neighbour happy across from because he was complaining a little bit. Apparently he couldn't breathe and he was choking and coughing from a tiny bit of vapour, and the best thing about it is I wasn't vaping for an entire hour when he came in to complain about the smell. I think he's anti-vaping. I think he is. Anyway, that was the SMOK Scar 18. When it comes down to which one to buy, it's all down to looks. That's what it comes down to. Personally, I hate to say this, but I'm actually leaning more towards the Scar because of that cage design going round the back. It looks a little bit more industrial looking, because that's the look I will, well, industrial steampunk, that's what I was going for with the look behind me, but I'm into the whole grunge industrial kind of steampunk look. And this does look this is more leaning towards my taste. If they had made the actual leather or fake leather pad here a little bit darker, it'd be an instant click for me. Instant click for me, but I'll lean slightly, just a tiny bit more towards the Scar when it comes to looks. Sorry, Geek Vape. Sorry. Anyway, that's it from me. Big thanks to SMOK for signing the Scar 18/40 review. Thought this review sucks and what to do in the middle. Good, give a thumbs up. Very fast at the top, you've got the latest video, no matter what video you're watching in the channel. And that's the latest What's Up Sunday update vlog in the middle. Shout out to the hashtag FloofArmy, the Patreons, the Subscribe Stars, and the YouTube members for supporting Vaping With Vic financially. That's what's paying for the office and the studio. And of course, underneath me is the Vaping With Vic logo. Click on that to subscribe. As always, folks, thanks for watching and have a good one.